Welcome to Jack's Rants, our series of smaller bonus episodes where I discuss recent IT and security news that has popped up locally and worldwide, which might not be enough material for a good episode, but nevertheless deserves a bit of insight. I am Jack Smith.
Let me ask you two questions. How many people in your company use AI? And now ask yourself another one. How many of them are using the AI platform that your company actually approved? Because those numbers are probably very different. And that is the topic of today. We're not going to talk about artificial intelligence, we are going to talk about visibility. Because AI didn't invent shadow IT, it simply became the easiest way to create it. Because let me drill down a bit on that. Because you have to see what shadow IT really is. If you've worked in IT for any length of time, you've seen it. It could have been an Access database, an Excel workbook that suddenly became mission critical, and maybe someone bought a NAS because procurement would take 6 months and they just fixed it. Maybe Dropbox because the VPN was too slow. Could have been a Raspberry Pi hidden under a desk, or an old laptop quietly running some production application, and don't even mention that PowerShell script that nobody dares to touch because only Steve, who has been out for 3 weeks, knows how it works. Every business department, every IT department has one, and usually several. And each and every one of them started exactly the same way. Not with somebody trying to break company policy, but somebody trying to get their actual work done. Because shadow IT starts with frustration. See, the deadline was Friday, IT couldn't deliver whatever they needed in time, procurement said another approval, security said no, and somebody, probably Steve, said, I'll solve it myself. It doesn't start with a rebellion. Shadow IT usually starts with frustration. And actually, Shadow IT is your fault because it's the uncontrollable part. IT likes to complain about Shadow IT because that's easy. Security likes to complain about it. Management likes to complain about it. But every now and then, you should ask yourself the different question. Why was this built in the first place? Did IT move too slow? Did procurement take 6 months? Did security simply say no without any alternative? Or did the business have a deadline that just couldn't wait? Sometimes you find out that shadow IT isn't a technology problem, it's a feedback problem. Somebody is telling you, well, the official process isn't helping me to get my work done, and you just might not like the solution that came up, but you should probably listen to the problem they were trying to solve. Because we get to what IT is really good at, that IT loves inventory. IT knows perfectly how many servers there are, how many switches are in production, which firewall firmware is running, which UPS batteries need replacing, which certificates expire next month, how full the SAN is, if backups completed overnight. That is what IT does. It builds visibility because you cannot manage what you cannot see. Look at the data center. Everything has a label, every rack has one, every cable has one, every server has one, every power cable has one. Everything is documented, monitored, backed up, audited exactly as it should be. I've spent years around data centers and infrastructure, and if you heard me or my guests on some of the infrastructure stuff out there, we can talk for hours about redundant power, fiber paths, and network design. But here comes the irony, the biggest IT risk never is inside the data center. Today it lives under somebody's desk or even inside a web browser. And that's what shadow IT actually is. It's invisible IT. There is no inventory, there is no patches, there are no backups, there's no documentation, nobody monitors it. And then one day somebody asks, well, how does this actually work? And the answer is, well, Mary has the Excel file and Steve has the PowerShell script. And in today's world, that answer quite often is, well, Sarah asks ChatGPT every morning. And there you go. You have discovered shadow IT in your organization. And yes, AI has substantially lowered this barrier because for years, shadow IT required effort. You had to buy hardware, you had to install it, you had to configure it, and you had to hide it. But today, you open a browser and you type a prompt, and that's it. You don't need administrator rights, there is no installation, there's zero procurement, absolutely no ticket, and no approval. Because why would you? The cost of creating shadow IT has fallen to almost zero. Because nothing which is coming up is actually new, it's just been so easy to create it these days. What has changed? Well, the first problem isn't AI, it's the information that we give it. People will happily and blindly copy contracts, customer emails, source code, meeting minutes, HR documents, network diagrams, financial reports, and it's not because they want to leak company information. it is they need a quick answer before the meeting starts, or they need to compare a few quotes from different vendors really quickly. The intention is good, but the consequences, well, that's a different story. And secondly, everybody is now a software developer. Imagine 20 years ago you wanted to automate something. You had to learn PowerShell or Bash or Python. Today you open a prompt and says, write me a PowerShell script that creates users. Copy, paste, run it. It could work. It could also delete something very important. The barrier isn't technical anymore, it's confidence. And now we get to the point of trust. AI doesn't really often produces answers that are obviously ridiculous. It looks professional, plausible, well written, and that is what makes them so dangerous. And then think about using that on firewall rules, Azure statements, VMware config, Cisco command line, SQL queries, infrastructure automation. Imagine that the AI invents a parameter, it uses an outdated command, and suddenly you end up with, well, a single production outage. And so it seems that AI has become the new expert, because conversations don't start these days with, oh, I found this documentation, or I found this knowledge base article from Microsoft, and not even with, well, I think that. Conversations today start with ChatGPT says, or I asked ChatGPT. And that's fascinating. Not that people use AI. I use AI, you probably do too, everybody does. But the interesting part is what happens next, because people don't often stop questioning the answer. It sounds professional, it's well explained, and as you will know, it apologizes very politely when it's wrong and you call it out on it. That gives it an authority that it hasn't earned, because AI doesn't know your environment, it knows nothing about your firewall, your naming conventions, and let's not even try to think about the shortcut your predecessor took a few years ago. It does not know which production server not to touch and which to touch. It doesn't know your company, your organization, your structure. It knows nothing. However, people increasingly accept its answer as it came from the engineer that built them, and that's very dangerous. It's not because AI makes mistakes, it is that the humans that use it just stop checking. And one of the most valuable skills in IT has always been healthy skepticism. Verify the backup, test the failover, read the logs, double check the change. AI shouldn't change that. But no, AI should become another tool in the toolbox, not the person signing off the work. Another thing noticed is that the review process is slowly disappearing. Imagine this in software development a few years ago. A developer would finish its code, it would go to peer review, it was tested, it went to production. Now, random employee does something in AI and hop, it's in production. The review was not intentionally skipped, it just disappeared. It vanished. And then the fragmentation starts. You will have a proud email from management says, well, we've rolled out Microsoft Copilot. Congratulations. But then suddenly you will notice 3 months later that marketing is using ChatGPT, developers prefer Claude, research uses Perplexity, and the design guys, they use Midjourney. And well, of course, to complete everything up and down, sales has discovered Gemini. But then the company officially supports one AI platform. But in reality, 5 different ones are used every day of the work by 5 different departments. The ownership, who created this workflow, who tested it, who understands it, who maintains it. If the answer is, well, the AI helped me build it, that's a new form of technical debt. It's not because AI is bad, we've mentioned that plenty of times, but nobody documented what happened. And then follows the uncomfortable truth, because every few years, IT and all its services, they try the same solution. If something new pops up, you ban it, you block it, and you disable it. We have been blocking access to Dropbox, USB sticks, personal Gmail, and cloud storage for years. Did it stop people? Did it stop anyone? No. People have always found another way. Because a business problem, that never disappears. So shadow IT shouldn't disappear, it will evolve. So what can we do? Simply pretending that AI doesn't exist is not a strategy. Neither is pretending that your employees don't use it. However, you should ask them, what tools are you using? You might learn something in those 10 minutes than in 6 months of policy meetings. And then provide a good alternative. Train people. Explain what and may not be uploaded. Make a secure solution, the easiest one, because if security becomes an obstacle, people will just build another shortcut. And that is exactly how shadow IT begins every single time. In conclusion, we all know that shadow IT has never been about technology. It's always about people solving problems faster than their organization could. AI just happened to be the fastest shortcut we've invented. That means that AI isn't the problem. it's a leadership problem, because every employee who quietly opens ChatGPT instead of the approved process is telling you something. They're telling you where your organization creates friction. If you ignore the message, you'll spend the next 5 years chasing invisible AI. And if you listen to it, you might finally fix the reason why Shadow exists in the first place. And that is not because the goal was to stop people from solving problems. The goal was to solve these problems the right way and the easiest way. And if you can do that, AI stops being your newest Shadow IT and it will actually become your newest teammate. Think about that.
The content of this podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only and is meant to humorously explore various tech-related situations. Any resemblance to actual events or real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. We ridicule situations, never individuals or groups. Listener discretion is advised, and we encourage everyone to approach technology with a sense of humor and an open mind.